Yo guys, what is going on? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be reacting to Geography Now, Philippines. Now the Philippines is a country that I know absolutely zilch about. Nothing. I've always heard about Filipino people. They're very prevalent in specific cities and things like that, and I've come across a few in my comment section that actually urged me to watch this video. So thank you for that, and I'm excited to check out a new place that I know absolutely nothing about. And who knows, maybe I'll even end up visiting the Philippines in the future. I don't know, but all I know is it's a country in Asia. It's kind of in the ocean, kind of situated by itself in the ocean, maybe. I hope. But yeah, let's get right into this. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. As I promised, I'm going to be checking out new countries and stuff. I took a little break from that, but we're definitely back doing that and exploring, so I'm excited. Yeah, let's get right into this.
If you don't know anything about Asia, the Philippines is like the jolliest of them all. They're just happy, fun, jolly people. And
you know what? It's been 3 years. I'm not taking this anymore. I've been pushed around, I've been threatened, I've been thrown in the dungeon, I've been the butt of all the jokes. I'm the Filipino one. This is my time.
My time!
Okay. Ah! They always have these crazy edits.
Welcome to the Philippines. My turn.
okay.
All right.
To learn geography.
Now! Hey everyone, I'm Ken, and as you know, I'm half Filipino. Years ago, I was looking for a job and I saw this ad asking for a motion graphics animator on Craigslist. Paul and I literally met up at a Jollibee for my interview. He said I was his top 3 candidates.
In reality, there were only 3 candidates that applied, so technically I didn't lie, but yeah, the other 2 people kind of sucked, so yeah.
Oh, and back then, I had this weird mustache and Paul's hair was basically this thing.
Ken and I have been talking for a long time, and we agreed Ken definitely has to be in this episode. You've come so far from that Craigslist Jollibee interview, you've earned this.
Thanks. Handa na? Magsimula.
What language is
The
that?
Philippines is an interesting country because there's sort of a dichotomy between labels. If you ask a Filipino if they consider themselves Asian or Pacific Islanders, you might get contrasting answers.
What do you
I
consider
see.
yourself, Ken?
I always thought Pacific Islanders sounded kind of cool, so I usually stuck with that. So first of all,
The Philippines is a tropical archipelago of over 7,000 islands, about 2,000 of which are inhabited, and it is the largest island
What?
nation without any land borders or shared island.
Wait, what? 2,000 inhabited islands? Holy. There's no oh yeah, that's
territory
true.
with another nation.
the country is located in Southeast Asia, straddling the
That's
Philippine
crazy.
Sea in the north, the South China Sea in the west, and the Sulu and Celebes Sea in the south.
Just a skip away lies the island of Borneo, which is split amongst 3 nations, at the closest point only about 22 miles or 40 kilometers away from the nearest island that belongs to the Philippines.
Now, in general, many people will refer to one of the 3 main island cluster regions that people are a part of. There are Luzon in the north, where you can find the capital Manila and where the half of the population lives, Visaya in the center, and Mindanao in the south.
Otherwise, the nation is made up of 17 regions, one of which is autonomous, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. This place has a high level of self-rule and autonomy appointed by the government. We'll explain more about this later.
I'm
If you want to
so
be absolutely
intrigued.
technical, Quezon City, a bit north of Manila, is the largest city in the Philippines. However, the surrounding 16 towns and cities by Manila are called Manila Metro, or the National Capital Region, and they basically act as one unit.
Otherwise, the largest city outside of the NCR are Davao City in Mindanao and Cebu in the Visayas.
Manila has the
that's
largest and
beautiful.
busiest airport, Ninoy Aquino International Airport, which is basically the hub that services the entire NCR. They also have the busiest shipping port at the Port of Manila.
Otherwise, the second largest airport is Cebu Mactan International, and rounding out for third place is Davao City Francisco Bangoy International.
In terms of land transport, though, the Philippines is well connected amongst the islands. In fact, the longest highway is the Pan-Philippine Highway that stretches about 3,500 kilometers across the country and connects Luzon, Samar, Liet, and Mindanao with underground tunnels connecting them.
Finally, the Philippines has only 2 territorial disputes, the state of Sabah in Malaysia on North Borneo. The territory once had been part of the Sultanate of Sulu, a Muslim state that existed the 15th century to the 20th century, and that's a whole other story.
As for the others dispute, as we mentioned quite a few times already, this whole area known as the Spratly Islands is a complete mess. If you don't know anything about this place, it basically goes like this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. This is the map showing what everyone claims in the area. This
Oh
big
my
one right here
God.
is China's. Like, yeah, they just kind of pretty much went for all of it.
This
Of
has
course,
even led to a few
of
skirmishes
course.
between nations that have built patrol stations on the island, and when they spot a ship that gets too close, things can get kind of ugly.
It's kind of like this.
Hey, what are you doing? This is my area.
I'm just doing some fishing and research here, you know?
Why do you have a shovel then? Are you building something? Or?
Well, technically there's no land protruding from this reef, so there's no land claim.
So you're just gonna build your own land?
For research.
Anyway, here are some notable spots of interest.
Fort Santiago,
Magellan's Cross,
San Agustin Church,
Sagada Hanging Coffins,
Aguinaldo Shrine,
Cebu's Philippine Taoist Temple,
Shrine of Mama Mary in Tagaytay,
the Lapu-Lapu Shrine,
Luneta Park,
MacArthur Landing Site,
Bunawi Rice Terraces.
the Malacanang Palace,
Ooh, they use
Ligan
terraces
has many
too.
historical and colonial buildings,
the various national museums of history and arts,
tons of amusement parks,
and that's not even including all the natural wonders of the Philippines. They have an underground river,
the most amazing, beautiful beaches in the universe.
hills that look like lumps of chocolate,
What
And there's an island in a lake, in an island, in a lake, in an island.
We should hang out sometime.
Yeah, when you have 7,000 tropical islands on a volcanic archipelago, chances are things can get pretty crazy landscape-wise. Which brings us to...
Bro, the Philippines are awesome.
The actual
Why?
physical land of the Philippines is the biggest treasure you will find here for sure. Anyway, the Philippines lies on the Ring of Fire and is specifically on a tectonic plate named after them, the Philippine Plate.
and about 95% of the land is made up of the 11 largest islands.
The country was essentially formed through the tectonic activity between the Philippine, Manila, and the Mindanao Trenches, the Mindanao being the second deepest in the world.
This
Wow.
makes the country susceptible to small
Wonder how many
earthquakes and
miles.
minor volcanic activity.
About 53 active volcanoes can be found in all of these largest islands, except for Palawan. The most famous and picturesque of these include these three.
See this island here, Camiguin? It actually has more volcanoes than towns on it, 7 versus 5, making it the place with the most number of volcanoes per square kilometer in the world.
In fact, the tallest
Risky to
peak in
live
the
there.
Philippines is a potentially active volcano, Mount Apo, located in the South Mindanao area.
The country has numerous mountain ranges and highlands that dip into the fertile valleys, the largest range being the Cordillera Range in the North Luzon area, hooking into the Sierra Madre Range on the east side, which feeds the longest river of the country, the Cagayan, that flows into the Cagayan Valley.
This valley, along with the Central Luzon Valley, are the largest arable croplands and produce nearly all of the rice in the Philippines.
The Visayas are known for growing the most sugarcane, whereas Mindanao specializes heavy in coconut and fruit production.
Back in Luzon, though,
Okay.
you can find the largest lake in the country, Lake Laguna de Bay, which is actually in the caldera of a dormant volcano.
The lake has a weird detached island called Talim and is actually drained by the Pasig River that flows through the capital, Manila.
And finally, the country is the heart of typhoon territory. They can come at almost any time of the year. The nation will experience on average about 20 of the turbulent storms annually, which often flood to their many river systems. But yeah,
That's pretty
if anything,
often.
Filipinos are the most cyclone adapted people on earth. They're used to it. The water has always been kind of their thing. Swimming, sailing, fishing.
Just not exactly quite diving into it.
Otherwise, the Philippines is one of the 17 mega diverse nations on earth.
They actually have the largest level of marine biodiversity in the world within their waters and the highest rate of animal discovery on the planet. with
That's
16
awesome.
new mammal species that were discovered in the past decade alone.
They have everything
Wow.
from
The longest snake in the world, the reticulated python.
the largest fish in the world,
Nah.
whale sharks.
7 of the 8 known species of giant clam are found in the Philippines.
The world's smallest hoofed animal, the Philippine mouse deer.
And their national bird is the largest eagle in the world.
Economically speaking, the Philippines is considered a newly industrialized nation. It is transitioning out of becoming an agricultural-based system to a service and manufacturing-based one. They have like 3 of the top 10 largest malls on earth.
Ooh, just you wait. I'm taking the top spots.
They're one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, and as the 34th largest economy in the world, their GDP purchasing power parity has surpassed the $2 trillion mark.
Basically,
what's
the
up.
Philippines is definitely becoming a key power player in the world stage.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
We're so rich!
someday. For what it's worth though, mining, fishing, and agriculture are strong industries as well. They are currently the world's largest nickel and abaca or Manila hemp producers and the second largest coconut producer after Indonesia.
That poor
Tourism,
mule.
though, is another important industry, taking up about 8% of their GDP, employing over 3 million people.
And now, food. Now, in
might
the
have to add to
Philippines,
that
every
industry.
region has their own specialty and culinary strange.
Yeah, every dish looks like a fairy exploded.
Lots of dishes you could eat kumakain kamay, or eat with your hands.
Yeah, pretty much everything has rice, and then you're gonna get a lot of grease and salt and vinegar, and a lot of like, I don't care if that looks like it goes there or not, I'm still gonna eat it anyway. Right, Ken?
Yeah, that's Filipino food.
Yeah.
There's really no official national dish, but 3 meals that are well known for are adobo, lumpia, and sinigang.
And in the non-Muslim parts, lechon is a huge deal.
There are also dishes
Oh.
like
Tagalog steak,
tinola,
pansit luglug,
kare-kare,
sigstig,
tapsilog,
balut,
kinilaw,
and my favorite,
Hold on. What was balut?
pansit luglug,
kare-kare,
sigstig,
tapsilog.
bal.
Oh, no. I always say you can't knock it till you try it, but that might be something I have to pass on. But the rest of those dishes looked amazing. Like, this video should be posted everywhere because this makes me want to visit the Philippines.
And my favorite Filipino dish, palabok. Just put some nice little lemon juice on it. I actually got this at Jollibee. If you don't know what Jollibee is, it's like the most popular fast food chain in the Philippines. It's like if McDonald's and KFC adopted a Filipino baby, and they even added spaghetti to their menu for some reason.
Otherwise, Filipinos are dessert experts. They love their ube. Ube everything. Ube ice cream. Ube bread. Ube pie.
What is ube?
Cakes.
Oh, they also have like sapin, and cassava cakes. Those are the best desserts in my opinion.
They also have halo-halo, leche flan, turon, bukok, pandan, and puto. What you call me? If you're either Latin American or Spanish, you may notice some
I've heard
of those
it, yeah.
foods are also found in Latin cuisines. And
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
There's a lot of overlap.
Explain that in. Now, only in the Philippines can you find people that have Spanish names, speak English, celebrate an Austronesian culture, and cook Chinese.
General MacArthur once said, "Give me 1,000 Filipino soldiers and I will conquer the world."
Yeah, for some reason, Filipinos are like the best friends of Asia. Filipinos still have the best attitudes and smiles. They even give time off felony sentences if the prisoners volunteer to take part in a Michael Jackson dance performance to the public.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, the graph. The country is about
That's pretty
110
cool.
million people and is the 8th most populated country in Asia and the 12th most populated country in the world.
There are about 175 ethno-linguistic people groups in the Philippines, the majority of whose languages are Austronesian.
Of these groups, the largest ones are the Tagalog at about 28%, 13% are Cebuano, 9% are Ilocano, and 8% are Bisaya. The rest are made up of other groups plus a small minority of non-native citizens, mostly Asians and Americans.
It's important to note, though, that the Philippines has
diverse.
about 10.2 million people overseas worldwide. It is one of the largest diaspora populations, spanning over 100 countries. The US alone has about 4 million.
I mean, they were at one point colonized by
Crazy.
the US, so go figure.
They use the Filipino peso as their currency, they use the types A, B, and C plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road.
Oh, and keep in mind the word Pinoy is synonymous with something that is Filipino. You might see that used a lot.
Now back to the ethnic groups thing. Since there are over 175 of them, you would think, how do they all communicate?
Well,
Pretty
the
diverse,
Philippines has
yeah.
2 official languages, English, which makes them the 5th most English-speaking nation on Earth, and Filipino, which is the standardized version of Tagalog. The Philippine Tagalog language spoken today is a very different from pure Tagalog. It actually has about 14% Spanish, 10% Malay, and 7% English mixed into it with a slew of other borrowed loanwords. You can see the influence in words like pintelador, guapo, zapatos, and pamilya. Often, Filipinos will substitute
Yeah.
an F with a P,
Or a V with a B.
or a V with a B.
Yeah, same with Koreans actually. Yeah. High five with minimal consonants.
Yay!
Oh, and fun fact, Ken taught me this. In Tagalog, you can actually say an entire conversation just using the syllable ba. For example,
Ba, ba ba, ba ba, ba ba ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba ba,
ba, ba 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 ba.
ba ba ba.
Well, that was fun. Otherwise, in the Visayas and Mindanao area, Cebuano is a common language, as well as the other regional tongues like Waray and Daboeno.
They even have the only Spanish-based Creole in Asia, Chavacano, located in Zamboanga City. Now, the Philippines is unique in that over a past few centuries, they've gone through 3 periods that shape their identity.
Before European
Well,
intervention, the Philippines
They have to have gone through a lot because it seems like there's just so much stuff overlapping. So I'm really interested to hear this history here. Oops.
has had a multitude of early civilizations that built kingdoms and dynasties like the Tondo, the Namayan, the Pangasinan, and the Sulu Sultanate.
Many of these kingdoms had their own indigenous writing systems, such as the Babayan, Buhid, Eskayan, and Kulitan.
Genetically, Filipinos are classified as belonging to the broader Austronesian people group, with their closest cousins being the Micronesians, like the Mariana Islanders, Guam, and Palau.
Although over the years, many people have mixed, and today it is speculated that somewhere around 1/5 or more of the population may have some kind of Chinese ancestry. After the Spanish came in, they adopted many of the customs, traditions, and cultural traits which have Spanish roots. Their own country is named after Spanish King Philip. The biggest trait, though, would be the fact that they are predominantly Catholic, at about 81% of the population adhering to the faith.
The rest are mostly Protestant, with a small Muslim minority in the South Mindanao area.
The Philippines is the largest Christian nation in Asia, 5th largest Christian nation on Earth, and 3rd largest Catholic nation after Brazil and Mexico.
They have so many holidays and festivals devoted to Catholic themes, like All Saints Day, Holy Week, and Easter, and of course, the largest one, Christmas.
The Philippines has the longest Christmas season out of anywhere else on Earth.
Is that Christmas spelled wrong, or is that how they spell it? It's interesting because there's a lot of Latin American countries that have a similar Catholic population, so I can see that influence. I don't know who influenced who, or someone
Okay,
else
so now we're
influenced
just
both of
gonna
them.
rapid fire a list of 12 fun cultural facts for the Philippines.
All right, here
Filipinos
we
have
go.
a ton of superstitions. For example, whistling at night will turn you into a werewolf.
For formal occasions, you may see Filipinos wearing traditional barongs for men and Maria Clara or mestiza dresses for women.
There are many other traditional costumes and customs for the other 170 ethnic groups. Too many to cover, but it goes everywhere from feathers, coconut fibers, hair dresses, tribal tattoos, and so on.
Speaking of which, the Philippines dominates major international beauty pageants with a grand total of 15 victories at the Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth competitions.
Basketball and boxing are the most popular
Got some
sport by
beautiful
far.
people.
They have the oldest basketball league in Asia and the second oldest in the world after the United States. And come on, we all know Pacquiao.
The Philippines is the leading nation to train and export nurses abroad. It's been said at one point, every Filipino has their should I just drop everything and become a nurse moment in their life crisis.
That's a fact. I've had those. And the word balikbayan means returner or returning family. It is used when someone comes back from expat work abroad.
You might hear the honorific title of po or opo for elders, and a lot of people often raise the backs of the hands of their elders to their forehead as a sign of respect and say, bless.
In the Philippines, you have your name and you have your Pinoy nickname, and they get really weird and creative. Pepsi, Bing Bong, Jelly Boy, Pinky, Bum Bum, and Earl.
Every Filipino on every island in every region can tell you Filipinos are obsessed with karaoke. The first karaoke machine was actually patented by a Filipino, Roberto del Rosario, even though some Japanese dude invented it, but he patented it.
Obviously, that means music is a big deal in the Philippines. Besides taking modern cues from American pop, they also have traditional styles. Instruments include things like gudyapi, gilitang, gimbal, kubing, and togali.
In addition, there are many different
Hey, if someone wants to, put me on to some Filipino music in the comments down below. I'll react to some songs or something.
styles of dance, but the most famous one considered the national dance is tinikling, a dance done between two pairs of perpendicular bamboo poles.
I need
that
to
are
react
clapped
to that.
together as percussion tools, and the dancers must weave their feet in and out in the spaces
That's
before getting
crazy.
hit or tripped.
Now, on a bit of a more objective note, we do have to talk about some of the controversies.
The Philippines is beautiful, but if you've been keeping up with current events, they do have their fair share of issues that have made headlines.
I have not.
Don't sugarcoat everything here.
Human trafficking, whether in the sex industry, slavery, or organ smuggling, has been a problem in certain areas. And even though anti-trafficking acts have been passed by the government, enforcement has not always been on par.
The drug trade has also been a major inconvenience for decades, affecting millions of people in the country. This has led to the new controversial laws instituted by President Duarte, which encouraged the public to seek bounty in exchange for hunting down drug pushers. Many have died in the process.
And finally, you have the Moro conflict, an insurgency in the predominantly Muslim Mindanao region, which sought to take parts of eastern Malaysia and break away through conflict. The fight has been going on for nearly half a century, and now it's just ending at the turn of the 21st century.
Kind of.
For what it's worth, though, in the Philippines, everyone is family at the end. You don't have to be related
All
to
right, I mean,
anyone's
when I think about those issues, like, as an American, I have no room to judge. I mean, the issues we have here are just ridiculous, so that didn't sound that bad to me, but
call someone
everyone has
tate
their
or
own
kuya.
problems.
There's even a word, bayanihan, which means something
Seems like
like
the Philippines
helping
are
one
good.
another through community
Filipino
spirit
people are
without
good.
expecting anything in return. In any case, we gotta finish off this segment with history.
Austronesian.
Here we
Tribal
go.
kingdoms and sultanates.
This guy came to the islands.
Catholicism comes in.
Lapu-Lapu and Magellan dies in battle.
5 Spanish dudes followed through.
They finally become a colony of Spain.
The galleon trade.
British Philippines.
And then back to Spain. The Treaty
British
of Paris.
Philippines?
Philippine Revolution.
The Spanish-American War.
First Philippine Republic. Philippine-American War.
American occupation.
World War II, Japan invades.
American pushes them back.
Finally, Philippine independence.
Ferdinand Marcos turned from president to dictator.
Martial law.
This guy gets killed because he was against the regime.
People Power Revolution in 1986.
Growth from agricultural society to an industrial one.
And here we are today. And now we finish
Wow.
off with the notable famous people condensed. Some famous people you guys, the Pinoy geography suggested we mention in this episode include
Lapu-Lapu.
Jose Rizal, these two saints,
Melchora Aquino.
Manuel L. Quezon,
Lacan Dula. Josefa Yanes Escoda. And Vicente Lim.
Carlos Peña Romulo.
And all the Miss Universe winners. And there's a ton of Americans with Filipino or partial Filipino descent.
Yeah, you can see there's lots of them.
Wait, let me look at him. I wanna see.
And there's a ton.
Oh my, bruh, what? This guy? I didn't know Bruno Mars is Filipino. I've heard of him before. Enrique Iglesias. I just can't put my finger on it. I've never heard of these other people though. But that's an interesting hairstyle there.
Ton of Americans with Filipino or partial Filipino descent.
Yeah, you can see there's lots of American Filipinos. Those two get along pretty tight.
We'll explain more on
Yeah.
how that happened in... Because of the long history in the
Here we
Philippines
go.
being colonized
Let's
by
see.
two major Western powerhouses, it would make sense that it would have ties with the outside world in many different ways.
For friends, the Philippines is generally close with all the ASEAN nations and does great business with them, particularly Indonesia and Malaysia, their closest neighbors.
The Marshall Islands, Palau, and the federal states of Micronesia are all cousin countries, many of which have Filipino migrants in them, and they all share the same history of being former U.S. territories and U.S.-influenced states.
Of course, Spain will always be in the back of their minds as the former colonizer that they gained much influence from. Although Filipinos are not considered Latino, the Spanish and many Latin Americans kind of see them as like the adopted Asians that totally fit in their family. It's like, come on, you're Catholic, you eat flan, every fifth word you speak is Spanish, you're basically one of us.
Interestingly enough, the relationship with Mexico has historically been always strong. The Philippines was ruled under a Mexico-based viceroyalty of New Spain. The Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships, which for 2.5 centuries linked the Philippines with Mexico across the Pacific Ocean, making 1 or 2 round-trip voyages per year between the ports of Acapulco and Manila. And Mexican traditions were brought in like the Day of the Dead and Champorado.
When it comes to their best friends, however, most Filipinos would probably say, even though colonial years were a little bit bumpy, ultimately the USA and South Korea.
South Korea
Yeah.
was one of their closest best friends from the 20th century on. World War II really bonded with them after the Japanese occupation years, and they supported each other diplomatically.
Koreans are the top #1 tourist demographic that visit the Philippines. Koreans kind of admire the fact that even though they were both influenced by the US, Filipinos speak better English, whereas Filipinos practically obsess over Korean products and media.
Us.
That's
K-pop,
why
I
we're-
bet.
For the USA, ties were close ever since they became their colony in 1898. The US also had the largest number of overseas Filipinos at over 4 million, most of whom live on the West Coast states like Hawaii and California. They are one of the oldest Asian partners of the US. They have a mutual defense treaty, and they are the largest export partner and second largest import after China.
American pop culture dominates much of the youth influence. Hollywood studios love filming there, and Gallup polls have shown that the USA is favored on average by over 90% of the people asked, making it one of the most pro-American
Yeah.
countries on the planet.
That's what's
and
up.
Ken, you take the conclusion.
In conclusion, if you enter a room full of Asians, you definitely know who the Filipinos are. While everyone's so uptight, we're the ones singing karaoke and somersaulting. You could just feel the energy of a Filipino. There's a touch of Latin flavor with American pop undertones. But in the end, no matter what island, you're immediately considered part of the Pinoy family.
Ken, you're one of my best friends. I love you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. Stay tuned. Poland is coming up next.
Alright, we gotta check that one. So wow, my eyes have been opened. I wish I had watched that sooner, and this has just shown me that I need to kind of step out of my comfort zone more often, because the Philippines, I don't know to say is or are. I'm just gonna say are because it's multiple islands. The Philippines are an awesome country, you know, and that's just crazy. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just all the pieces came together throughout. Like, I had heard about a few things, and of course I've come across some Filipino people throughout my life, but it just all makes a lot of sense now. And I definitely want to check out more content regarding the Philippines, and I know I have a couple Filipino viewers. Shout out to you. I really appreciate you all watching, and I hope you are happy that I watched this. Make sure you comment some stuff for me to check out. And yeah, let me know what country we should stop by next. And who knows, maybe I'll end up in the Philippines one day for a vacation or something. I don't know. It seemed pretty beautiful. There were some crazy, like, exotic sights and foods and animals. I mean, the biodiversity there just looked insane. So yeah, really appreciate you all watching. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.